Hello and welcome to the Chiaroscuro Jazz Podcasts. I'm George Graham, Director of Artistry and Repertoire for the Venerable Jazz label, celebrating our 50th anniversary and featuring over 100 titles by some of the world's great jazz musicians. This time we feature saxophonist and composer John Gordon. Over the years, Chiaroscuro has featured many recordings by veteran jazz artists, but the label has also helped to cultivate relatively younger artists, with some making their debuts or formative albums for Chiaroscuro. John Gordon is one of those who made two of his earlier recordings for Chiaroscuro in the mid-1990s. John Gordon was born into a musical family in New York in 1966. His father was a jazz baritone saxophonist, and John began playing saxophone at age 10, first playing in school bands. He went on to attend the Performing Arts High School in New York, and in the 1990s attended the Manhattan School of Music. At the time, he was performing professionally with jazz artists like Roy Eldridge, Red Rodney, Barney Kessel, and Al Gray. He became a friend of Phil Woods, who served as a mentor and who had high praise for the emerging saxophonist. Gordon recorded his second career album for Chiaroscuro in 1992 called The John Gordon Quartet, which also featured Kevin Hayes on piano, Scott Colley on bass, and Bill Stewart on drums. The album also featured guest appearances by Phil Woods. Here's John Gordon first with an original called Time Trap, and then with Phil Woods, the Thelonious Monk tune, Evidence. John Gordon with special guest Phil Woods on the 1992 album John Gordon Quartet doing Thelonious Monk's Evidence, and before that with the quartet, a John Gordon original, Time Trap. 2 years later, in 1994, John Gordon was part of a jazz festival at sea on the cruise ship Song of the Americas in the Caribbean. Some great jazz artists were part of that festival. One of the distinctive features of many Chiaroscuro CDs is the Jazz Speak track, in which the artists talk about their music in their own words. Here's John Gordon talking about his experience at that festival.
We recorded this project in April of this year, 1994, with a wonderful group, which included Bill Charlap, Sean Smith, and Tim Horner. Our group's appearance and performance was part of a jazz festival in tribute to Mr. Benny Carter on the Song of America. It was really an honor to be a part of this festival in celebration of his work. We had the wonderful experience not only of recording this project, but of also playing with many other great musicians who were on the cruise during that week, which was kind of a tour de force of saxophone players, which included people like Red Holloway, Jackie McLean, Phil Woods, and Benny Carter, both of whom appear on this CD. As I mentioned earlier, this was a tribute to Benny Carter, and it was the first opportunity that I'd had to play with him. Our pianist, Bill Charlap, had played with him a couple of times, and I had met Benny many years ago. I guess I was 19 at the time. I had done a live radio show, and I went to see Benny the next night at Carlos One here in New York. And Benny has probably the most incredible memory of any human being I've ever met, and immediately recognized me and said, "Yes, I heard you last night," in the maybe one or two times that I'd seen him since or spoken to him on the phone. He remembered hearing me on the radio and meeting me and the exact date that it all happened. He's a really incredible guy in many respects, along with being one of the great alto saxophonists of all time. He's truly one of the great jazz musicians of all time, a great trumpet player and multi-instrumentalist, great composer, one of the great big band arrangers of all time. And I think he kind of sets the standard to all of us of what we would like to be and do, not to mention still being around doing it. Phil Woods I consider also to be one of the great alto saxophone players of all time, and I was lucky enough to study with Phil a number of years ago. He was very, very good to me and has always been very supportive of me, and a great friend and great kind of father figure to me in the music. And it was a lot of fun to sit there and listen to his group and play with him on this recording, and also to play some at the tribute concerts that we did for Benny. It's a pleasure and a treat to play with Phil and to be with him. Playing with people that play your instrument as well as Benny and Phil do, not to mention Jackie McLean and Red Holloway and the others that were there, really makes you put into perspective what you do on a certain level. It's not only a thrill and a challenge, but a great learning experience. I've always felt that the real task at hand is to learn from what others have done before us and be inspired by that, to then find our own way. Not to abandon anything in the past, but to build on it rather than copy it, and that's what I try to do. I was really happy to have the musicians with me that I did have on this particular recording and series of performances. Bill Charlap is one of the best friends I've ever had, and has always been a great inspiration to me. Really lives music, and has taught me a lot about music, and is really just a wonderful musician to work with and be around, and has incredible energy and enthusiasm. Sean Smith is also one of my best friends, and Sean and Bill and I for years have been wanting to do a recording, and we're really excited to finally get this opportunity to do it. I don't think we've had so much time together in our lives. We had 10 days to just be there, and it was really a lot of fun. Sean is a great musician and is a great composer. We didn't record any of his tunes on this particular album. You can hear some of his compositions on Bill Charlap's Chiaroscuro record. At any rate, Sean is one of the most lyrical and musical bass players around anywhere, and has a wonderful attitude and is completely supportive to the music. His attitude towards the music, I think, is really spectacular. And Tim Horner is also a dear friend, though a more recent friend, and we were really happy to have him. We had only done a couple of gigs as a quartet before this, and I felt like we really kind of became a group on the ship doing our performances and doing these recordings. And I just feel that Tim adds a lot to the music. He has a lot of fire and a lot of passion, and a lot of strength in his playing. It was really a lot of fun and very inspirational to play with him. I really felt that he led me in some directions that I liked, and I really hope we get to do a lot more playing together.
John Gordon speaking about his experience playing and recording at the Jazz Festival at Sea. Now here's music from John Gordon's album Spark, recorded as part of the festival. This track features the late Benny Carter on the old standard I Can't Get Started, with Bill Charlap on piano, Sean Smith on bass, both of whom have recorded their own albums for Chiaroscuro, and Tim Horner on drums. And after that, the album's title track, Spark. John Gordon with the title track of his 1994 album Spark, and before that with special guest Benny Carter, I Can't Get Started. The rest of the personnel was Bill Charlap on piano, Sean Smith on bass, and Tim Horner on drums. 2 years after that recording, in 1996, John Gordon was the winner of the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Saxophone Competition. Since then, John Gordon has released several more albums, most recently one called Stranger Than Fiction, issued in 2021 on the Artist's Share label. You can find John Gordon's Chiaroscuro releases on our website at chiaroscurojazz.org, where you can find a searchable database of the artists and music on the label. The music is available on CD, as a download, and streaming on Spotify. And you can listen to continuous jazz from the over 100 albums available on Chiaroscuro 24 hours a day on the Chiaroscuro channel, available at the new and improved Chiaroscuro website. This is George Graham. Thanks for listening to this Chiaroscuro podcast, and join us next time for more music from great jazz artists.